Withology is about collaboration, inspiration, dedication, influence, and positive manifestation. It's about the stories behind success, something everyone needs a little bit of help achieving. Join host Brian Tierney, CEO of Brian Communications, as he interviews the most successful business and industry leaders to hear the fascinating stories about their personal journeys and the people who have helped them get to where they are today. Welcome to Withology.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Withology. I'm Brian Tierney, CEO of Brian Communications and Future Tense Health. In this episode, you'll be joining us for part 2 of a 2-part interview with Fawn Lopez, former publisher of Modern Healthcare, healthcare's leading source for industry news around the world. If you joined us for part 1, you heard the incredible story of Fawn's early life and the experiences that shaped her. I was moved to hear Fawn talk about her family immigrating to the United States from war-torn Vietnam when she was only 15 years of age, and her experience of adjusting to a new life in a new country as a refugee. In today's episode, we'll hear more about her early career and how she found success in publishing and where she sees the future of the industry going forward. How did you get into publishing the first? So it was sales, right? So, I mean, did you see an ad how did you wind up going to the Kansas City Business Journal?
Well, I was in retail. I was a sales manager at The Limited. So one of my colleagues at The Limited had left the company and went to work for the Kansas City Business Journal. And she loved her job. And the reason that got me interested in that job was what she said about the job itself. She said to me, Fawn, it's a great thing that you get to use your brain. You get to be creative. You have full control of how well you do. Whereas in retail, I worked with The Limited. Every week, they delivered a book to us to tell us exactly what was going to be on the mannequins, down to the earrings. It was very robotic. And so I knew I was smarter than that. I knew I didn't want to be told every step along the way. I had my ideas, my own ideas, and they were great ideas, but I couldn't implement them. So what she said to me really got me excited about going to work for the Business Journal.
And when you applied, you didn't get the job at first, right?
Nope, I did not. I had no outside sales experience. And what the job I was applying for was advertising sales. And it was an outside sales experience. It was a daunting prospect. And I learned quickly that rejection was a near constant presence. I got turned down twice. Every time they said to me, oh, you interviewed great, your resume is great, but you don't have any sales experience. So we're going to go with this person, but call back in 6 months. And I would call back in 6 months and I would get the same answer. So the third time, this advertising director decided to see me again. It was a new one. He said, the notes on your resume, I still have it. They're all great notes. I don't know why they didn't hire you. Come on in. I came in, interviewed. At the end of the conversation, he said, I really like you, but this job is really hard and you don't have any experience. So I'm sorry, but we can't hire you. And mind you, that job was 100% commission. I said, well, what do you have to lose? If I don't sell anything, I'm not going to make any money. And how am I going to ever get experience if no one gives it to me? I can guarantee you, if you take a chance on me, that you will never regret it. He said, well, I'm sorry, but you know what? Maybe I'll schedule a meeting for you with our publisher. I said, I'd love that. It would be wonderful if you could. So I went in and met with the bigwig. During the interview, he expressed skepticism about my ability to handle the rejections that are so inherent in sales. I told him that my resilience had been hardened by my previous struggles and experiences, and that hearing no would not deter me from pursuing my goals. actually hearing no would be a motivator for me. So he was impressed by my determination. It had been like a year and a half since my first interview. And I wanted that job so badly. And I knew that if I kept at it, that I would get it. So he gave me a chance to prove myself. They gave me the worst territory, no business, period, whatsoever.
Let's see if she can do this one, huh? Well, here you go. You want to try sales? Here you go, Fawn.
Yeah. And I turned the corner after the first year and a half and became the number one salesperson in my second year. That man, Steve Rowling, became my first mentor, and he remains a significant influence in my life today. And it was a catalyst, his willingness to take a chance on me that set me on a trajectory, an incredible path toward success in the publishing business.
As a former publisher myself of the Philadelphia Inquirer and Daily News and Inquirer.com, I've seen the changes in the business. You've seen them as well, amazingly. And it's, when you get there, it's at the Business Journal, which is a part of Crain's. It's ad sales, and that is a key part of it. It's creative ideas, but pounding the street and going door to door, accepting rejection and not getting, discouraged by it. So talk a little about the changes you've seen in publishing, and then you happen to be in the most change business you can imagine in terms of healthcare too. So it's change on top of change on top of change. So talk a little about some of the changes that you've seen in publishing and how it's evolved from your perspective over the last several decades.
My career at Modern Healthcare has been amazing. It's an unbelievable experience. And I view change, I embrace it. Actually, change is really good for us. But yes, both the news media industry and the healthcare industry that we cover have gone through unbelievable change, pace of, incredible significant changes over the last 2 decades because of the digital disruption. With the rise of the internet, social media, and mobile devices, traditional print-based models have been challenged and disrupted in a major way. We've had to adapt quickly in order to stay competitive. So the emergence of online news platforms and digital subscriptions was one pivotal point. The technology provided readers with new ways to access and consume content and information, and opened new markets for media organizations, which is a huge opportunity, but it also posed significant challenges. We had to navigate the various distribution channels and pricing models, right? So imagine going from just purely print play to now including digital, and with that comes just a wave of competitors. I mean, everyone, especially in healthcare, everyone wanted to be in the space. Everyone wanted to be a media organization in healthcare. The rise of social media disrupted traditional advertising and forced companies like ours to rethink our strategy, our revenue strategy. COVID-19 pandemic also had a significant impact on our business. It accelerated the shift to digital as readers turned to online platforms for news. Media companies like ours had to adapt to a whole new work model. Remote work was a huge change that impacted us. But it was wonderful because, we adapted, we pivoted quickly, and more than ever during COVID, we were delivering content to our audience and they needed us. And we were able to do so. And we were able to provide content in a way that meets their needs.
In the most rapidly changing business you can imagine, too, is healthcare.
Especially healthcare, COVID industry needed information quickly and information that they can trust, right? So that was fundamentally our principle, our mission, is to put out content that is timely, credible, unbiased, and content that readers can trust. Trust is the foundation of it all. There's a lot of noise out there, but those that are putting out content that is credible, that's unbiased, that's trusted, that's timely, it's going to be able to compete. And we were very, very, very good at it.
When you first got into the business, talk a little bit about, as a woman, were there any particular moments that, were particularly challenging or?
Well, healthcare is a very male-dominated industry, and for sure 20 years ago, right? We've made progress, albeit slow, but we're making progress. The pace needs to be picked up. So yes, I have experienced my fair share of challenges. As a minority woman, when I first entered the business, I had no healthcare background. So as a minority woman without extensive healthcare experience, I faced significant obstacles in establishing myself as a capable leader and professional. And despite my qualifications, I often found myself dismissed and disregarded, particularly in meetings where I was one of the few women and perhaps the only minority female present. In such a situation, my boss at the time, I was an associate publisher, a well-respected white man with 25 years of industry experience who would typically receive all the attention, while I was left out of important conversations and made to feel pretty invisible. So it was a challenge. It was disheartening, but I refused to be deterred and persisted in demonstrating my worth and competence. And I just knew that if I learn all I can about the business, about the industry, build relationships, engage in the field, that in time I would earn the respect.
And when did you find out that you were going to be publisher or that you were on the track to become publisher?
I was asked to join Modern Healthcare when I was at a sister brand. At the time, Modern Healthcare was going through a tough period in its history. I really loved my work at the other brand, but I was told that, I needed to do this for the company, and I felt that it was the right thing to do after 7 months of saying no. So I eventually accepted the position with an understanding that if I could help the brand turn a corner in a year or two, that I would be made publisher. Well, it took over 4 years. The company finally, it did the right thing.
One of the mantras that we talk about here at my agency is Bryan Communications and Future Tense Health is that, the secret to success is surrounding yourself with smart people who work hard. And the final item is, and have empathy for each other and our client. That's one of the things that comes through so much in you. And one of the things, too, that's so critical to healthcare. There's so much change in so many different fields, but nothing is changing as fast as healthcare in every aspect of it, from the lab in terms of gene therapies and things like this, all the way to the bedside. And what do you see happening over the course of the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years?
So, healthcare is one of the most dynamic, mission-driven industries, if not the most mission-driven industry. It's been such a privilege for me to have been able to work at Modern Healthcare and for serving the healthcare industry. It is constantly evolving and adapting to new technologies, trends, and challenges, which makes being in healthcare so awesome, right? Nothing is ever the same. Some things are, but things are changing all the time. It is the best industry to be working in. Some of the changes that I expect in the next 3 to 5 years. So we'll break them up into short-term, long-term. So short-term, I see telemedicine, which has been accelerated by the pandemic. It is expected to continue to grow in popularity. In the near term, patients can expect to receive not only medical advice, but treatments from the comfort of their homes, reducing the risk of infection and keeping costs down and making healthcare even more accessible. So the problem with healthcare is affordability and accessibility besides quality and safety. Number 2 is I see an increased focus on mental health. The pandemic has taken a toll on mental health, and there is a growing awareness of the importance of mental health care. Healthcare providers are working hard and increasing their focus on mental health services and treatments. And the government will continue, hopefully, to increase funding and reimbursement for mental health services.
Yeah, there's not the stigma that there was, maybe 10 years ago.
As more people are willing to talk about their issues, it is becoming less and less of a stigma. We all have to deal with mental health issues, right? So digital health is another trend. You have wearables, health apps. They're becoming increasingly popular, and they're expected to become even more prevalent in the short-term future. Patients can do so much now with wearables. They can track their health and fitness levels, monitor chronic condition, and receive personalized health recommendations. So those are some of the short-term trends that I see. In terms of long-term, personalized medicine. This is a wonderful development. Advances in genomics and other technologies are really paving the way for personalized medicine. Now providers can use genetic data to create personalized treatment, personalized plans, pathways that are tailored to your unique needs and genetic makeup. AI is going to change everything. We don't know. It's hard to predict the potential. It's expected, or I expect it to transform healthcare in the long term. It can help healthcare providers make more accurate diagnoses, predict disease outbreaks, improve outcomes, and a long list of things that they can do with AI. Health equity. There is a huge growing recognition about the importance of health equity and reducing healthcare disparities. Providers are really working hard to addressing social determinants of health to help improve access and reduce disparities in healthcare and improve outcomes. So social determinants of health equity and sustainability are 2 areas I'm very passionate about. So in the long-term future, sustainability and environmental, social governance considerations, practices are becoming increasingly important for the healthcare industry. The providers that are prioritizing sustainability now and really fine-tune their ESG practices will be better positioned to meet the needs of patients, investors, stakeholders, and more. So those are some of the trends that I see short-term, long-term for healthcare.
These are powerful. And they are mega trends that'll impact generations from now. You talk about the emotional part of it and the passion part of it. And the one story that recently was published about a fellow named Michael Cray, who is an electrical engineer by training and lost one of his children. He doesn't work at the hospital. This was in the Philadelphia Inquirer recently. He lost a child to cystic fibrosis 20 years ago. For 20 years, he's volunteered as a cuddler and to help in other ways in this hospital on a weekly basis, where some child, some infant who would benefit by just having somebody hold them in their arms. And there's others volunteers who do that. And to think about that, and one thing that hit me is when his son's name was Ian, and he said, sometimes my first thing is, what does Ian think? What's his advice to me now? You just feel like, wow, it's like a house of love between the doctors, the nurses, the people who make sure that the place is scrupulously clean, volunteers like this. You leave it thinking like, thank God there are people in places like this too. And to be in your role of seeing it, living it, it's very, very powerful, Fawn. And your own personal story too. When you think about growing up in a affluent way in Vietnam and at 15 years old, finding out within 24 hours you're in a refugee camp and seeing the love and the commitment, it's just mind-blowing.
I've always said, I'm grateful always to have the opportunity to work for Modern Healthcare and to work in this industry. What other industry that can have such tremendous impact on so many lives? And, healthcare is full of dedicated, mission-driven people who blend toughness, resilience with the dedication and passion to save lives and mend broken bones and hearts. I mean, it truly is that is healthcare. And that is the reason why I didn't intend to stay longer than a year or two. But after 6 months, I knew I wasn't leaving because of the nature of the mission-driven aspect of the healthcare industry, and it's the people that are in it. They're just amazing people, and amazing things happen every day in healthcare. And, I would say this to the audience: if you see a nurse, doctor, a healthcare worker, thank them, because they worked really hard during the pandemic. I mean, they gave so much of themselves to help us get through the pandemic.
Let me ask this again before we leave. What's next for you, Fawn? I mean, you've got such brains and energy and experience. I used to think the key thing was just, energy and youth. Now I realize wisdom is really valuable too. I'm saying as a joke because I'm in my mid-60s here. But wisdom, it's pretty good. It's really important. So what's next for you?
That's why the Asian is so respectful of the elderly, right? It's wisdom, right? Hopefully we gain more wisdom as we get older. What's next? So, I said it before, nothing has given me more pride and joy than serving as the publisher of Modern Healthcare and vice president of Crane. My position has offered me a front row seat to this industry's march toward quality, safety, access, and equity. And I got to call the shots. It has been an incredible journey and opportunity for me and my colleagues. I'm not saying goodbye, although I am no longer actively play the role of publisher. I am in the role of publisher emeritus. In that role, I have committed to staying engaged, not only with Modern Healthcare, but with the healthcare industry. So I'm getting my fresh start with new responsibilities in ways of supporting Modern Healthcare this year in 2023. I'm working on some special projects and projects that I'm passionate about, which is sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm going to be working on serving on a couple of boards. And, I will engage in personal passion projects, do more volunteer work, spend more time with my family and with my friends, and really, really look for opportunities to learn new things. It's this next phase that I'm very much looking forward to. And so, yes, I'm open-minded about the things that will come my way.
And a lot is and a lot will. Yeah. And there's a lot of people going to be benefiting for years to come from your wisdom and your experience and your heart too. Your personal story is so powerful, Fawn. Thank you for being part of us. And I also want to thank the listeners for tuning into this 2-part episode of Withology with the publisher emeritus of Modern Healthcare, Fawn Lopez. Fawn's story powerfully brings home the whole point of Withology. None of us are successful alone. Great things are achieved with the support of those around us. And I hope you'll join us for the next episode of Withology coming soon.